All right. Chapter 15. Where is it? All right. Plans. Eckhart. Eckhart disliked dropping in unannounced, especially at that morning hour. But Myne greeted him with her usual warm smile, putting him at ease. He'd been made to wait for her in a dainty parlor, but after presenting her with flowers and exchanging pleasantries, Myne suggested they take a walk in the garden.
I thought you might prefer it to sitting in the parlor.
Eckhart nodded in agreement, relieved to escape the dainty little room. Offering his arm, they strolled through the topiary garden and down the avenue toward the reflecting pool. The morning was still cool, though the cloudless sky promised a sweltering day ahead.
I apologize for the sudden visit, Myne, but I believe time is of the essence. You invited my mother to the ladies' salon this afternoon?
Myne's smile faltered slightly.
I did. Is there a problem?
Eckhart hesitated, and then spoke.
Would you consider canceling it?
Myne's eyes widened in surprise.
What? No!
She caught herself, then quickly corrected.
I mean, if you think it's best, I can try, but she won't be pleased. Nor will the others.
Her expression clouded with concern.
If it's too much trouble, don't worry about it. I just wondered if it was an option, because I suppose it's not easy to turn down the request of an arch noble, especially my mother.
Myne tilted her head thoughtfully.
It's not about obligation. I want to expand our salon. We're in dire need of a boost.
I thought your tea shop business was booming.
Myne smiled.
That's related, but different. The tea shop is a place anyone can enter and enjoy our sweets and purchase books and other things from our catalog. That is doing very well.
Eckhart noticed how she almost glowed with pride as she said this and blinked.
Just how much money was she making these days?
Well, he was glad for her.
The salon, however, is where our most devoted patrons truly have a place for themselves. It is a membership based and relies on referrals, but it really is not all that difficult to join. We do not believe that faction politics or status should keep people from joining. Any lady may join our ranks, from a lowly lay noble concubine to an exalted archduchess.
Eckhart snorted a little, thinking of the impossible scenario of the prim and proper Lady Charlotte reading the kinds of books that would make one grow hot and turn red in the face. Then he realized the full meaning of her words, and the smug amusement was replaced by cold shock. What kind of insane organization was she setting up? Eckhart bit his tongue and let her keep going because she sounded so excited. And anyway, he would be a fool to interrupt her now that she was so eagerly giving him the information that everyone else, including his own mother, was having a hard time acquiring.
Right now, we are only reading books and letting our numbers grow. But in time, we plan on expanding to a new location, separate from Lord Henrik's estate, and expand the scope of activities the members can enjoy. I would especially love to expand the reading room, too, since it's currently so small. The only problem is that, not counting Frida and myself, we have yet to surpass 10 members in our ladies' salon. And no matter what we do now, no new members have joined in a while.
Less than 10 members? Eckhart sighed in disbelief. He wanted to laugh. This so-called faction that no one else really knew much about was made up of two young women on the fringes of noble society and a handful of ladies? Why was everyone getting so worked up about such a small group?
Is that why you are so eager to have my mother join? I could have other ladies, the wives of and sisters of my own friends, join your endeavor. Why didn't you ask me?
Myne pouted slightly and glanced away.
It's not just about numbers. I'm careful about who joins.
Eckhart frowned, pretending to be affronted.
Didn't you say there were no restrictions? Why turn down friends of mine, but not my mother's?
It's not that I wouldn't welcome them, but some people wouldn't fit in.
She hesitated, then continued.
We had some unpleasant guests at the tea shop recently. They were rude, demanding, and disruptive. It drove away some of our salon members.
Oh, what happened?
Myne shrugged, her expression hardened into a bitter frown.
Two young men came in, escorting a young lady to the tea shop. At first, Frida and I were very happy to see Archnoble's visit, but we soon changed our minds because the lady found fault with everything: the service, the tea, the pastries, and even our patrons who were just having a peaceful time and who'd just been minding their own business. She was loud and tried using her status to get her own way, demanding to see the items in the catalog only available to salon members. And it wasn't just her. The two lords with her were louder and far more unpleasant. In fact, one of the young lords with her was
Myne paused and searched for the words.
very unpleasant, violent. He made a mess before the three of them took what they wanted and left. They broke things and left cake strewn all over. They never paid for what they took or what they broke. Everyone who was there was shocked, and all of my salon patrons who'd been present at that scene canceled their memberships and have not since returned. So you'll have to forgive me, but I'd sooner have a small but congenial group of ladies than the most exalted archnoble ladies in my salon who do not know how to get along with others.
Eckhart was shocked. How could members of nobility behave in such a way? Myne had had no business refusing archnobles anything, but even so, he imagined Myne, holding back tears against those bullies as she saw them wreck her precious tea shop. Why hadn't she ever told him this? Eckhart's expression darkened.
Who was the lady? And who were the two with her?
He
Do you
asked.
know their names?
Myne colored, and she looked away.
I'd rather not say it.
Eckhart was incredulous.
Excuse me?
I'd rather you drop it. It happened, and nothing else came of it.
Myne said, but she looked almost desperate to change the subject, and a niggling suspicion unfurled within him.
Do you ever recoup the loss of your salon members, though?
No,
She said, biting her lip to keep it from trembling.
we got an additional member after that, but she only came once and has not yet returned to salon meetings.
Eckhart sighed.
If these rascals are behind it,
Myne's hand gripped at his sleeve, making him stand still.
Lord Eckhart, please let me handle it. I will take care of this on my own. It's my business, after all.
Eckhart looked sideways at the young woman in his arm. She was beautiful, intelligent, and capable, and in her gold eyes was the determination one saw in knights before heading off to slay a dangerous fey beast. She wanted to see things through in her own way, and he could respect that. But he also saw past the sumptuous dress, expensive jewelry, and ornate hairstyle. Despite her beauty, determination, and intelligence, she was still young and lacked the connections and influence of an archnoble. That crush her store, that crush her dreams. His diminutive water goddess was no match for them. In fact, she was far too easy a target. Already Florence's faction, in the form of his mother, was on the cusp of bringing her business down, and she didn't even know it. Were these rascals behind it? Eckhart was sure they were. It would only take a little investigative work on his part, absolutely nothing that he couldn't do, to confirm the identity of those troublemakers.
Myne, you are under my protection. You can rely on me. Don't forget, you're my business too. And what kind of dark god would I be if I didn't take care of someone under my protection?
Myne huffed impatiently and looked away.
I understand that to others you're my lord, and I'm your water goddess. But you and I both know that it is all a ridiculous ruse and—
Eckhart interrupted her by holding her firmly by the shoulders and looking into her eyes to hammer it home.
Ridiculous ruse or no, you can rely on me for anything. I mean it.
Myne blinked repeatedly as if confused. Surely it was not a surprise to her that she could lean on him on these kinds of things, right? The girl was so stubborn.
But if I do, it won't count.
She said, looking downcast.
I promised I'd be able to handle it and show results by the end of autumn.
Eckhart frowned.
Promised who?
Twin spots of color appeared high on her cheeks.
Lord Ferdinand, I need to prove to him what I can do.
Eckhart sighed inwardly. His mother had suggested that Myne was infatuated with Ferdinand, and this was further evidence, but he chose to focus on the more pressing matter.
Myne, you can't blindly trust my mother. Your salon is seen as a threat by some. If you keep going as you are, you're in danger of losing everything.
Myne's grip tightened on his arm.
What do you mean?
You're seen as a faction which is somehow managing to round up those that no longer fit within the world of politics after the Veronican faction was disbanded and purged. It is in no one's interest that these ladies gather again. Everyone sees it everyone sees it best that they and their houses remain friendless and isolated.
Myne blinked.
You're not serious. But they are delightful ladies, and they've never done me harm.
Be that as it may, their houses are disgraced, and no one sane would associate with them, let alone gather them under a roof. I was going to let my mother do her thing and hope for the best after what you told me. Sorry. I believe there are external forces that are already at work, and there's already people who mean to use my mother to bring about the end of everything. Your tea shop, your plans to expand, your business with Frida, all of it.
Myne looked horrified, but remained silent.
We can try to thwart them, but you have to let me help.
Eckhart said, his tone firm. Sorry.
Can you trust me?
Myne gave him a look. It wasn't a look that said,
I don't feel comfortable trusting you.
But one that said,
Can we even fool someone like Lady Elvira?
Eckhart smirked.
I know what you are thinking, but we can try. And our odds improve because we have an advantage over her. She has yet to know who exactly is part of your salon. All she knows at this point are rumors, but absolutely no names. He gave in to a
Go ahead. He gave in to a brotherly impulse and patted her head.
You were very smart to keep the identities of the ladies in your society under wraps, Myne. You've done very well.
Myne's little smile and the twin spots of pink at her cheeks were charming, and a vast improvement over the practiced smiles she often gave. But her expression soon changed into resolve. She looked very serious as she nodded.
Very well. Let's try it. What do you need? What can I do?
They sat down at the gazebo and talked, schemed, and plotted. Eckhart was conscious of the fact that as a tactician he was sorely lacking. He was no Lord Ferdinand after all. But he wasn't the only one scheming and plotting. Myne was also putting her all into it. After all, her businesses were at stake here. Maybe, just maybe, with 1.5 brains among them too, they'd be able to pull one over those who would harm Myne through his mother. They spent the next spell scheming and planning, sending out messages and preparing for what lay ahead. Eckhart knew that they had managed to avert disaster this time, but there was still so much work to do. He had his own tasks to take care of, including dealing with the troublesome arch-noble trio who had caused so much havoc at Myne's tea shop. But for now he kept that to himself. As they walked back to the house under the heat of the noontime sun, Myne offered.
Are you sure you don't want to take lunch here? You know you are always welcome.
Eckhart smiled.
I'm tempted, but we both have work to do. Besides, Ella's cooking dishes better than me eating hurriedly. Oh, I'm sorry. Blah, blah. I'm gonna restart that. I'm tempted, but we both have work to do. Besides, Ella's cooking deserves better than me eating hurriedly. She is truly a wonder.
Myne shook her head and gave him a playfully stern look.
Pretty words. Soon you'll steal her from me.
Eckhart gave her a wide grin.
I'll double whatever you pay her, and we'll add an extra stipend to develop more recipes. But I'll be very generous and let you be the first one to try any of her recipes.
Myne's mouth gaped open and closed like a fish out of water, and Eckhart burst into laughter.
Relax, Myne. I'll never steal her from you. I've tried, but she has turned me down. It's a pity, though. I could eat that tender veal dish every day of the week.
Myne looked thoughtful and then spoke.
If you want, you can come over for dinner. I'll make sure she prepares it for you every day until you're sick of it. After all, it's much more fun to eat together, isn't it?
Eckhart's smile froze. He had thought that Myne liked living her life and doing her own thing with only sparse and occasional visits being sufficient. But maybe she wanted to spend more time together? Why? Was this a sign of her being acutely lonely? Or a token of her gratitude for him helping her avert disaster? Without really knowing what he agreed to, he accepted the dinner invitation for the following evening, said his farewells, and flew towards the knight's barracks where his quarry awaited him.
Damn Cornelius, and the trouble he's caused that led to this whole mess.
End of chapter. All right. So for this chapter, I just want to make sure that I give credit to the proofreaders. For this one, I think Fergie was the one that helped me with the proofreading. So thanks, Fergie. You're in the chat. So we have a little bit of scheming and plotting right now. And we're going to see if that was enough to avert disaster. And let me just try to pull up the next chapter. By the way, I think it was Yukihime. She brought up the fact that I said that between Eckhart and Myne there was only 1.5 brains between them. I didn't mean to do him dirty, but he's not a tactician. He's Eckhart. We love him.
He's a good dog.
He's a precious murder doggo. Okay. And that's okay. Yukihime says he compensates it with heart. Yes, exactly. So we like Eckhart a lot. By the way, you guys, my Chrome kind of crashed a little, so so all of the
it's in his name.
Yeah, Eckhart.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
there you
Yukihime, for the
go.
compliment.
There you go. And also, yeah, Yukihime and the people on the chat, they are appreciating your reading. Everybody's doing such a good job. Really. I am not surprised though, because I've read with these folks many times, and they always do such a great job. Thank you. So the next chapter is actually very short. It is called Surprise Visit. Surprise Visit. I wonder why it's called Surprise Visit. We do have some new characters. Well, new to this fanfic, but not new to us. Let's see who it is. And let's do this. Surprise Visit. Blast. Hold on. Here we go. All right. Let's read Surprise Visit, and it'll be read. Charlotte and Lizalita will be read by Teal, Mariana and Ernesta by Vincent. All right, ready, you guys? Let's do it. Surprise Visit. The summary is, everything is ready for Lady Elvira's visit to the salon, except sometimes things don't go as planned, and a certain salon member is making a surprise visit. On the day of the weekly salon, Lady Charlotte, daughter of Ob Ehrenfest, carefully orchestrated her escape from the castle. With the help of her most trusted companions, Ernesta her guard knight, Lizalita her attendant, and Marianne her scholar, Charlotte intended to slip into the lay noble's district without raising suspicion. It was a stroke of luck that her meeting with her father had ended much earlier than expected, leaving her with an unexpected stretch of free time. Charlotte seized the opportunity with a grin.
We're going to the salon,
she announced, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Her companions wasted no time in preparing. They couldn't go dressed with their usual attire, not if they wanted to avoid drawing attention to themselves, so they donned simpler clothing that would allow them to pass as lay noble women. Charlotte had learned a thing or two from her father, after all.
My lady, I've prepared your dress.
Lizalita said as soon as Charlotte entered her chambers, her voice calm despite the urgency of their task.
Thank you,
Charlotte said, and gave herself over to her attendant's speedy ministrations, while the others also changed as quickly as they could. It was a major breach in etiquette to dress in the same room as their lady, but there really wasn't much they could do. For Charlotte, whose days were a relentless march of duties and obligations, these secret outings were worth any extra effort. Marian glanced out the window, her brow furrowed.
Are you sure that we shouldn't sit this one out? We will be late as it is.
Emerging from behind the partition in her med noble's attire, Charlotte flashed a bright smile.
We'll make it. We always do. Let me tend to your hair now, my lady,
Lizalita said, and gathered Lady Charlotte's perfect curls into a simple ponytail. They all hurried. Time was of the essence, but then again, when wasn't? Lady Charlotte's days were spent running from one thing to another. Well, probably running wasn't the word. Charlotte was a lady, and Ob Ehrenfest's daughter at that. As such, she did not run. She glided, fluttered daintily, paced with elegance, and so on. She was trained to move as gracefully as possible no matter what she did, but having also been trained by her Uncle Ferdinand, she knew that whatever she did, she always had to do it efficiently as well. Charlotte was always busy. Life was a constant whirl of responsibilities. Touring workshops, overseeing new businesses, attending social events, socializing with friends and allies, and keeping up with her studies under the watchful eye of her Uncle Ferdinand. The salon meetings were a rare chance for her to unwind, to indulge in sweets, and let loose in the company of other women who had, implausibly, become her good friends after just a short while. As they prepared to leave, Charlotte's thoughts drifted to Myne and Frida. She hoped they wouldn't mind her showing up unexpectedly, especially after she had told them she couldn't make it in this week. To make amends, she had Lizalita pack an assortment of treats from the castle's kitchens, knowing that Frida would be delighted by the selection, and she was sure that the money-loving Frida would also weep at the things she had picked out from the catalogue. Ernesta, however, was less enthusiastic. The guard knight's grimace was a familiar sight whenever they ventured to the lay noble's district. It wasn't just the risk of these secret outings that troubled her, but also the nature of the meetings themselves.
My lady,
Ernesta began cautiously.
Are we still attending to investigate with unsanctioned publications, or are we going to participant? And how long do you intend to keep your identity hidden from this certain woman? It's only a matter of time before Lady Myne and Lady Frida figure out who you are, despite others promising of secret.
Charlotte smiled at her knight, understanding her concern.
I won't keep it a secret forever. I will have to use my authority as Ob's daughter to absorb mine and Frida's products so that we can spread them all over the duchy so the trends can come from the top. But for now, can't I just enjoy this?
Marianne and Lizalita, who both knew how rare true friendships were for Charlotte, nodded in agreement. Ernesta sighed, resigned but supportive.
Very well, my lady. We are all ready. Shall we go?
Yes, let's.
They used the hidden corridors and back stairways usually reserved for staff to make it to the roof of the castle. Once on the roof, they summoned their high beasts and set off for the tea shop. The autumn sun was sinking behind the hills, casting a golden glow over them and the city below. But the sky above them was a perfect indigo, the same color as Charlotte's eyes. As they flew, Charlotte felt a rush of elation, a sense of freedom she rarely experienced. She laughed, blissfully unaware that her arrival would disrupt all of Myne's carefully laid plans, and that a certain green-haired lady would recognize her and her companions instantly, bringing her little masquerade to an abrupt end. End of chapter. All right.
She is Sylvester's daughter.
She is Sylvester's daughter. So
I need to point out a certain comment in the chat.
Oh yes, by all
from
means,
a certain Yukihime.
Yes.
You've heard of Rosevester. Now get ready for Charvester.
Sounds like a Pokemon. Yeah. Basically, she did have to pick up something from her father. And she is at the age of rebellion. I kind of get the feeling that we got Charlotte being like meek and cute and stuff like that, but I don't know. Like maybe she could have been a wild child if there was no Wilfrid anymore, and she didn't have to like wonder about succession. Yes, Crazy?
I think what really cemented her meek attitude in the real story is her comparing herself to Rosemine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She had a real inferiority complex due to that. She never really truly recovered, personality-wise.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But without that, I could see her grow into a completely different person.
Yeah, I kind of feel that without her having to worry about Wilfrid, she was able to just break out of whatever shell. And I mean, there was other factors. There's Melchior and stuff, but in this fanfic, I was like, Melchior's a good boy. He's just running around playing. So humor me on this. I wanted Charlotte to be the girl just because she needs to have at least a fanfic where everybody accepts that she is the best pick ever for Aaronfest. She deserves that. So even if it's just in this little fanfic.
Bestest ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Charlotte for president. I'm unashamed. So the final chapter we're reading today is called Blue. And again, let me give you a little background on this one. This one, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna write this one because I'm not a good writer of action scenes. But I was talking to one of my soundboard members, like somebody who I talk to a lot about fanfic, and Fergie here's on the chat. Hello, Fergie.
And then there's this guy.
Yeah, there's this guy.
And then there's this guy.
And he was like, no, you cannot not write that chapter. I'm like, but. And so I was like, you gotta help me. So I wrote some of it, and then he wrote like the action stuff, and I was like, yes, this is good. So I do have to give major credit to Fergie, who really was the reason why we have this chapter, and it's a fun one to me. I love it because because we get to see Cornelius. And we get to see how Cornelius ends up without the influence of Myne. So yeah.
Hi, Hirami.
Oh, hi, Remy says, poor Charlotte probably having a way more strict upbringing after Wilfrid's failed baptism. Yeah, she has a way stricter upbringing. So in a way, she kind of needs a little bit, like a little respite. So this going to the salon to read books, to read those kind of books, is the way she lets her hair down and unwinds and whatever. So for chapter 17...
Too bad. Too bad Elvira's about to ruin it for her.
Yes. And I it's not a spoiler. I put it there to build anticipation. So the thing about writing fanfics is that in order for me to make people hunger for the next chapter, I have to give them a little bit of a sneak peek as to what's coming. Yeah, little, not even foreshadowing, just like, oh, well, too bad her little plan is gonna be messed up. So, anyway, it's just one of the things about fanfics. You have to make sure to rip people so they come back hungry for more. And then do that 99 more times until you finish the story. So. Alright, so let's do this. Alright, Yukihime also points out Charlotte does not run. Very demure, yet she always arrives on time. Very mindful. That's right. She is very well, she's a very good girl, except when she drops in unannounced. We'll talk about it more in a few chapters. Not in a few chapters, chapter 18. But for now, we're going to go back to Eckhart and what happened after he left after he left Myne. The chapter summary for this one,
Hold on. I just have one more thing to say about the chapter we just read.
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte's coming in from the top row with the steel chair.
She doesn't know about it. I think the person coming in with the steel chair, though, would be Elvira. Honestly, she's the one to fear. My Queen Elvira.
Philip he's calling you out, Magpie.
That's the name of fanficking. You have to tease the readers. All right. So hopefully you guys will forgive me, and because we start the fanfic at a point where I'm almost done writing it. So don't complain. I admire the people that started reading the fanfic 2 years ago, and they have still stuck with it all this time. So those are the people that, I have great respect and appreciation for. All right, so chapter 17, Blue. The summary reads, Eckhart goes in search of Cornelius to teach him a lesson. That's it. That's the whole summary. Let's read this again. Reading Cornelius is going to be JC Fergie, haha. And then Darius will be read by Vincent. Okay, let's do this. Chapter 17, Blue. Earlier that afternoon, Eckhart left Myne's with only one thing on his mind: finding Cornelius. He raced to the knight's barracks, sending several ordinances ahead of his arrival to let his younger brother know to meet him in the training grounds. The lack of any response from Cornelius only deepened the furrow in Eckhart's brow. Was his brother too absorbed in the practice match to notice? Or was he deliberately ignoring him? Eckhart's jaw tightened as he hoped for the former. Soon he descended upon the training grounds. The sun beat down on the sand-covered circular arena where Cornelius and others of his rank usually trained, but today the space was already empty. Glancing about him, he noticed that all of the other training areas were quickly emptying as everyone dispersed for lunch and various afternoon activities.
Eckhart!
A familiar voice called out. Eckhart turned to see Darius, a stocky, pink-haired knight, a few years his senior, approaching with a broad grin.
Darius.
Eckhart greeted with a nod.
I thought you aren't coming over today.
Darius said, eyeing Eckhart's attire.
Why are you in street clothes? I will challenge you to a match before lunch, but I'm not frightened someone dressed like that are going to courting?
Courting. Going out.
Courting.
Yeah. Going, going with a girl or
Flirting.
dating. Flirting.
Ah.
Yeah.
Have you seen my brother?
Eckhart's tone was clipped, getting straight to the point. Darius didn't need clarification on which brother he meant. Lamprecht had long since stepped back from active duty as knight, leaving Cornelius as the only possible candidate. He stroked his pink goatee in thought.
He was practicing hair not long ago. Pretty pleased with himself, too. He got whacked a good, slapped him with some vicious attack that came out of nowhere.
Darius frowned and lowered his voice.
Poor Waggy had to be taken to get some healing magic before his face scarred.
Eckhart's lips pressed into a thin line. Wagner was a family friend, but young, less skilled than a med noble. He was no match for Cornelius's aggressive fighting style. While Eckhart admired his brother's prowess, using such tactics on a weaker opponent during practice was uncalled for. Another knight, overhearing the conversation, chimed in. "You're looking for Cornelius? I heard him earlier say something about plans to have lunch outside to celebrate. He might have already left the castle grounds by now." Eckhart's mood darkened further. Cornelius was easy to read. The thing with Waggy was clearly some kind of wager, and now he was off to gloat. With a nod of thanks to the other two knights, Eckhart spun on his heel and made his way toward the barracks.
Cornelius!
He bellowed the moment he entered the building.
Cornelius, come out right now!
Heads turned and people skittered out of his way as he passed, but his brother did not show himself. The fact that his brother was deliberately avoiding him only fueled Eckhart's anger. He could feel Cornelius's presence nearby, and that made the evasion all the more infuriating. When he found him in the gathering area of his dorm floor, Cornelius was still dressed for practice and laughing with some fellow knights of his. He was looking as carefree as anything, with his hair slicked back and his helm held loosely under his arm. Eckhart's eyes narrowed at something which caught his attention. In his hand was a dessert known only to a select few. A dessert that he himself had had many times with Myne, but had only recently come available for sale at a certain lady's tea shop. It was all the confirmation he needed. Without warning, Eckhart cast a net, ensnaring Cornelius before the younger man could react. As his brother's back was turned, Eckhart regretted not being able to see the shock his brother must have felt the moment he was ensnared. But the sight of Cornelius's helm flying as he dropped with a cry under the weight of the mighty net, and the way the pastry ended up smeared in his face and hair, filled him with great satisfaction.
What's going on?
The others exclaimed in shock.
Stand down, everyone. This is family business.
Eckhart said, leveling a warning glare at the other lords.
What is this? Who is?
Cornelius yelled, struggling fruitlessly against the shining net.
You know your struggle is in vain.
Eckhart said through gritted teeth as he dragged his brother along the corridor.
I told you to wait for me in the practice grounds. Did you not hear me?
Cornelius thrashed and protested loudly inside the net as Eckhart pulled him to the nearest window and heaved him out into his high beast. His youngest brother spat out a string of curses at him on the short flight to the now deserted arena, and Eckhart made no effort to be gentle when he dropped his brother onto the sand.
You'll regret this, Eckhart.
Cornelius shouted, eyes blazing with fury.
You'll first have to get out of this net then, won't you?
Eckhart smiled mirthlessly as he removed his cape. It would only get in his way, as it did not have protective magic circles in it. Squirming and writhing on the ground, Cornelius cried out,
You bastard! I'll have your hide for this!
Why don't you do that then?
Eckhart taunted, making a beckoning motion.
Come.
Well, you have to let me go first.
Cornelius shot back, red-faced with humiliation.
Aren't you always bragging about how mighty you are?
Eckhart's voice dripped with mockery.
I expected you to have already freed yourself from your abundant mana, brains, and ready stratagems. I'm honestly disappointed.
It wasn't something Eckhart liked to do, but reminding his younger brother that in terms of mana he was far, far superior was absolutely necessary.
You caught me off guard. All my tools are back in the barracks.
Cornelius grumbled, his expression darkening.
But I don't need them to beat you. I'll fight, damn it, but first just...
Before Cornelius could finish, Eckhart released the net and swung his sword down, aiming straight for his brother. It was a very reckless move, and had Eckhart... Oh, shoot, hold on. And had Eckhart not been confident in his brother's prowess, he'd never have attempted it. But Cornelius was not climbing the ranks faster than Stifabreeze for nothing. In the blink of an eye, Cornelius summoned his shield with a shout of, and braced himself against the force of Eckhart's attack. Sparks flew as the sword crashed against the shield, but Eckhart didn't relent. He pressed down with all his might, slowly channeling mana into his blade.
How does it feel to be on the defensive against a foe stronger than you, eh, brother?
Eckhart barked. Cornelius grunted, his muscles straining as he used body strengthening to push Eckhart back. Slowly, he rose from his prone position, first to one knee, then fully upright.
What the hell is your problem, brother?
Cornelius panted, finally managing to shove Eckhart away with another burst of strengthening.
You're my problem. You're a disgrace to our family. No one who behaves like you should bear the name Linkberg.
Eckhart snarled, swinging his sword again and releasing a blinding burst of mana that forced Cornelius to roll away from its dangerous trajectory.
Oh, so I'm the one bringing shame to our house? Well, what about you?
Cornelius scoffed back as he dodged out of the way of Eckhart's next swing. Cornelius shifted his staff into a sword, keeping his distance as he dodged each of Eckhart's relentless strikes.
Lands!
Eckhart commanded, morphing his weapon into a spear and lunging forward.
I've done nothing but support our house and my master since I first entered the Royal Academy. Even now I continue to support Lord Ferdinand and his departure from noble society.
Eckhart's voice rang with conviction as he punctuated each word with a thrust of his spear.
I'm devoted to being an honorable knight and a loyal retainer. Can you say the same?
Many of Eckhart's attacks found their mark, but the magic circles embroidered in Cornelius's cloak absorbed the blows, emitting a soft glow with each impact. Realizing his own lack of a protective cape, Eckhart decided to even the playing field. Lunging forward with a mist to the side, he chanted,
Riza Sikil.
under his breath, and morphed
I'm sorry, Vincent, that probably sounded bad.
Sorry, Vincent. Under his breath, and morphed his spear into a sickle. Now, with the blade behind Cornelius's legs, Eckhart pulled back onto the weapon and caught his brother on the back of his legs, causing him to fall backwards. Not missing the opportunity, Eckhart jumped on top of him, grabbed the clasp of his cloak, and in one motion yanked him through his cloak onto the bushes to the other side of the training grounds.
Get off me!
Cornelius yelled, thrashing beneath Eckhart's weight. Eckhart ignored his brother's protest, continuing to grapple until Cornelius managed to throw him off with a final burst of strength. Eckhart could sense his brother had used up a vast amount of mana, and figured Cornelius had expended more than was wise. He was looking exhausted, but as he wasn't reaching for a recovery potion, Eckhart guessed that his brother had already taken his day's limit of restoration potions, and taking another one would just make him sick.
You fight dirty!
Cornelius yelled with fury in his eyes. He summoned his sword and took a defensive stand, making sure to carefully keep his distance from Eckhart as he did. Eckhart wanted to laugh.
I only match my opponent, and if he is vicious and known to exploit others' weaknesses like you, then what about my fighting is dishonorable?
Cornelius's eyes blazed with anger.
I am your brother! You take another side over mine? Your blind loyalty makes you fight without honor. You make no attempt to make a name for yourself or to behave as befitting of an archnoble. You're nothing more than a dog fetching and groveling at your master's feet.
Straight Colvin.
Eckhart said casually, morphing his staff into a staff which he struck in the ground. He leaned on it as he replied with a sarcastic quip.
Oh, since you're so smart, enlighten me. How should an archnoble act,
Stabbing his own sword into the ground, Cornelius lifted his chin and puffed out his chest as he roared.
With honor, integrity, and pride.
Ha! Don't make me laugh. The way you have been behaving makes it clear you're sorely lacking in the first two.
Eckhart said, gesturing to the pastry cream still visible in his brother's green hair.
I've heard many things recently.
Cornelius did not comment on his appearance, which further confirmed his guilt. Instead, he quickly yanked his blade from the earth and charged in. Eckhart easily parried his brother's blows, occasionally smacking on the side of the face or shoulder for good measure. Growing increasingly frustrated, Cornelius growled out through gritted teeth.
Dare you? How dare you? Courting a commoner like that, taking her side against your own family!
Eckhart slowed his attacks, giving Cornelius a brief respite.
No.
He spat back, his nose wrinkling in disgust.
How dare you use your status to terrorize those who've done you no harm, those weaker and more vulnerable?
Cornelius's eyes widened with shock.
It's nothing! She's just a filthy commoner Lord Ferdinand had you take. By the gods, brother! Isn't this enough of your... Isn't it bad enough that you're some brainless lackey? Now you have to make this woman your water goddess too?
As Cornelius ranted, Eckhart listened. He understood Cornelius's perspective. Nobles often disdained those beneath them and held contempt for Lord Ferdinand's outcast status. Eckhart longed to defend his master, but Ferdinand had forbidden any rash actions on his behalf. But Myne was different. She was his to protect. Cornelius's words were eye-opening, though, and Eckhart realized that what he should have understood earlier. His duty went beyond safeguarding Myne's physical well-being. He had to protect her in other ways, too. To nobility, she was just an intriguing oddity, but once the novelty wore out, she'd be shunned. Nobles would never look past her shameful temple background if he let things remain the way they were. He finally understood the significance of his mother's words. Without his full backing, Myne would face endless scorn. Frustrated at himself for not realizing this sooner, he let Cornelius vent. That is, until he went too far.
You're showering that filthy Templewoman with favors and affection. It's disgusting. Honestly, just what would Hildemar even think?
Eckhart heard nothing after that. Rage surged through him like wildfire. He summoned a spike mace and launched at Cornelius, unleashing a barrage of blows. His brother barely managed to defend himself, and each strike drove him back further and further.
Before I say this, I need to apologize to everybody for what I'm about to do. Do not!
Eckhart roared, punctuating each word with a brutal swing.
Do not ever speak her name! Do not soil her will!
With each swing, Cornelius's face-stone armor cracked until it shattered under the relentless assault. Eckhart's fury was a force of nature, and he let it consume him. The faded memory of Heidemarie, the woman he had failed to protect, was the only thing he saw as he fell upon his brother with murderous intent.
I will end you!
Eckhart remembered little of what happened next. When he tried to recall the incident days later, all that came to mind was a searing blue, like the sky on a blistering summer day under Leidenschaft's watchful gaze. Blue, the color of rage, passion, and war. He was escorted off the training grounds by Darius and another 3 archknights, all struggling to drag him away from Cornelius, their faces pale with shock. Returning to his rooms after that, Eckhart sat quietly in the dark, thinking back on the words that were exchanged between his brother and him. He regretted how things had escalated, but nevertheless he stood by what he'd said and stood by Lord Ferdinand and his plans. His chest still felt heavy, though, and for the first time in many days he let himself think back on Hyde-Marie. If there was one thing in his life that he regretted, it was failing to protect her and their child. He wished he'd done better by her, and bitterly wondered if things would be different now if she were still alive. If she were still alive, she'd be doing everything she could to help support him and Ferdinand.
If she were around, maybe things would have turned out better than they are right now.
Eckhart's mind was a tangled mess and his mana was in turmoil. Exhausted, he lay down on his bed, uncaring of the dirt on his clothes, and drifted into a troubled sleep. When he woke up, 7th bell was just ringing. Eckhart shook himself to alertness, for it seemed that he had received an urgent message from Myne, asking him to please go see her. From the hastily scribbled way the note was written, and from how late it was, he knew that something terrible had happened at the salon. It was no use wondering what had happened. He'd find out soon enough. He cleaned up quickly, dressing in a hurry, and was at her door moments later. Ushered into the house, he was led not to a parlor but to the dining room, where she sat alone at a table laden with untouched food. Everything was laid out perfectly, and everything looked in order, except for Myne. For once, she was not the picture of the perfect hostess. In fact, she looked like a mess. Her elbows rested on the table's polished surface, and she was cradling her head in her hands. End of chapter. All right.
That was fun.
That was fun. Thank you so much, you guys. Also, note here, a million thanks to JC Fergie, who read Cornelius right now, by the way, for helping me write this, the fighting sequence, and set up the scene with many other fun details. I would not even have attempted to write this chapter if it hadn't been for his help and motivation. And you guys would have had to just be content with me writing, "Oh yeah, I beat my brother up for you," that kind of line somewhere in the next chapter. So there you go, Fergie. This was all because of you. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That's one of my favorite chapters in this fanfic, if I'm honest. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did when we were working on it.
I'd like to have contributed. It was fun writing.
Yeah.
That chapter had so much emotion in it.
Yeah, so you have anger, you have, I don't know, like, I think that Eckhart always, that was like his weak spot. Like, it was really low of Cornelius to have brought that up, Hyde-Marie in a fight between them. That was...
Yeah, I said her name. My bad.
Yeah, that was really...
He shouldn't have said that.
No,
he should not have said that.
No, that was dirty. So... Unfortunately, though, we don't get to see him being the aggressive, vicious kind of fighting style that he has developed because, of course, Eckhart is stronger and better than Cornelius. He has more experience also fighting and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Cornelius is supposed to be like, I think I put it somewhere in there that he has a pretty vicious fighting style. Like when he was fighting a med noble, he slashed his face. And that was just like some random practice. So, Cornelius, I'm worried for Cornelius. What do you guys think about this Cornelius without having met Rosamine?
He's been corrupted by Hartnett.
Well, that's spoilers. Why? How dare?
Well, we already know that.
It seems
Like 3.
Yeah. All right, Patrick.
It seems you took inspiration from his thought process when he was first assigned to Myne.
Yeah.
Basically, he didn't know who this upstart girl was, and he's like, why should I care about this pitiful girl who's so sickly and can barely do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It took
logically,
him until the library incident in their own house to realize, oh, maybe there's some merit to being a ward to someone. Because up until that point, he had no interest in even serving the Archduke family in any regard. He just wanted to do his own thing. And as far as we knew, his only friend at that point in time was Hartmut. So I'm just wondering what sort of influence that would have. And then you also, like, not knowing how Hartmut turns out yet, just the immediate thought is that if Hartmut never saw Myne early on and drastically changed the direction of his life, how would have he turned out influenced by those around him? And yeah, just took the worst possible direction.
yeah. So I guess logic was when he was first given to Myne. It makes sense for him to turn out this way without her influence and without Hartmut corrupting him.
Mm-hmm. Think about this, you guys. Cornelius is Traugut's cousin. So when I was writing this, I was like, okay, let's think of a green-haired Traugut. Basically, that was kind of like Cornelius, with an added influence of his bestie, which we already know from the short story collection. His best friend at the time was Hartmut. So
I am friends with very influential people. My good friends know the path of the book.
Right. So Yukihime says, this chapter has always made me sad because I really like the sweet Cornelius in canon. Exactly. Cornelius in canon turned out to be like the best boy. And I think somebody in the comments for this chapter said, like, it's sad because in this weave, in this alternate reality, Cornelius is, when he was asked to describe what an archnoble was or what a noble was, is somebody who behaves with honor, integrity, and pride. And they pointed out in this week, he has none of those things, maybe pride. Whereas in the proper weave that we get in canon, he is all of those things above. He is absolutely reliable, somebody that we love and trust also. So
honor bound to the point of being hilarious. No, you can't be in the same room as someone. Like, can you just not, Cornelius?
Yeah, the running gag. What is it, crazy?
I think that he doesn't even have that. He doesn't have pride. What he has is ego. It's the negative aspect of pride.
Yeah, that's
And I could see why he turned out like this, considering like when Cornelius his first perspective in the actual story, he said he just did the bare minimum expected of an archnoble.
Yes.
Because he didn't feel like he needed to work for it.
Yeah.
I could imagine this version of Cornelius that since he never really tried, he never applied himself, then that means that the only way for him to garner admiration and respect would be to either bully the people below him, or to just like rub it on people that I'm an archnoble, I'm just better than you.
Yeah.
I do want to apologize to everybody for blowing out their eardrums.
Oh no, I like it.
They were
I
good.
thought it was great.
It was good. I was crazily trying to adjust everybody's volume as we went. It was. I hope that it works out for everybody. I think I didn't get my ears blown out, but thank you for the headphone alert. Appreciate that, of course. Also, hi Remy points out chills. This chapter has so much raw emotion, and we can see as well on what is the thought process of both brothers. I really like that. We have Eckhart and Cornelius have never been more different than each other. And remember, in this week, Ferdinand is still in the temple, and the temple is terrible stain on your reputation. So the fact that Eckhart is still serving after all of these years, just Ferdinand, hasn't taken another retainer, hasn't become the retainer of somebody else. There's a lot that Cornelius is angry, and on top of that, I didn't really point it out on this chapter, but what I was thinking is I did mention Lamprecht, and he has been dismissed. We don't know yet what it is, but he's resigned from working as a knight's order. So in a way, Cornelius is desperate to like maintain the face of like we are like arch nobles, and he has like a little bit of a chip on his shoulder when it comes to like the family's honor. So he's also acting out because of that. Just wanted to point out a little bit of my thought process when I wrote about Cornelius. Hello, Sunshine. Hello, Luis Fernando Quiroga Gonzalez. Hi. Happy to see you here. Yes, what's up?
I think that this is just what happens when somebody grows up in a society that rewards people who think about number one themselves.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of thinking about number one, oh, well, go ahead, finish your thought and I'll point something out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just noble society in general is very self-serving.
Yes.
It's very like even the people who are below the people at the top, like the big reason to serve someone else is to increase the reputation of your own house.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And even forming connections with other families is mainly seen as political in nature.
Of course. Yeah, it's all about furthering the interests of yourself and your family. And I wanted to, since we're talking about this, I wanted to bring us back to the chapter before this one, chapter not 17 but 16, the one with Charlotte. Very short chapter, but there were some lines that I worked in and I wondered if you guys picked up on it. Again, it's not that she is being selfish because she's a selfish girl, but this is how society works. She said, eventually, I'm just going to go there and hang out. Eventually, I will tell them what the plans are. I won't keep it a secret forever. It says, I will have to use my authority as Ob's daughter to absorb Myne and Frida's products so we can spread them all over the duchy and so the trends can come from the top. So, again, we see nobility being nobility. There's none of that fairness that happened while Rosamund was around as the daughter of the Archduke. She made sure to spread the work for everybody, was fair about it, regardless of faction, regardless of whatever. The work was work, and she was willing to spread it. You know, what's the saying goes? Tide and ships and something like that. So anyway, that was with yeah. So I hope that you guys see that I am not just making like all these random choosing all these random things for the fanfic. We actually did in the Discord server for the official Bookworm. I actually did have people like read and give feedback because we wanted to imagine a world as faithful as possible where Myne never gave that positive influence. So that's just one of the things. People are just more self-serving. People are just downright meaner. In this case, we have Cornelius. He really did miss out on having a little sister.
I still like
thoughts?
the idea that Tarragot is the like typical noble, and just like everyone else around us in the story has been affected by Myne, so that's the way they are now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of interesting to look at him and just be like, yeah, that's our goalpost. Ugh.
Yeah.
You know, there's another aspect to this that I don't think has been pointed out yet. Is the absentee parenthood of both Elvira and
Karsted.
the name
Karsted?
Karsted, thank
Yes.
you. Yes.
It's not by their own like choice. It's just that there are two people that are very important in the world of Ehrenfest duchy politics.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Karsted is the captain of the Knights Order, so he's constantly busy. He can't monitor his own house because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the main story, that was pointed out. And Elvira, as the sub leader of a faction,
right? She's still the
Yes.
the one taking care of the Florencia faction for the most part, right?
Yes.
She has barely any time to monitor her own house, so that basically leaves their children to their own devices.
Right. Yeah. So let me read a comment here from Hi Remy. It says Elvira and Karsted's relationship must not be good at all as well. Since Cornelius is the youngest, it must affect him more than the other brothers. So yes, remember that without Myne being part of the household, Karsted and Elvira never really saw eye to eye. Karsted never understood Elvira, never really saw things from her perspective, and so this just follow that trajectory.
Yeah, like in theory, they could have potentially got back together, but Myne was really the catalyst for them to come, because they had no reason really to participate in each other's presence otherwise. Because Myne, she comes in, it's just like, not only am I going to be like adopted by the Archduke, so just your family in general is going to have more influence by being connected to her, but she's bringing this entire like duchy-wide printing industry that's going to revolutionize everything. So of course you want to be on that train. So you're going to both interact with her to be connected, and then that shared exposure helped them bond and see each other's side of the story. But since they never were given that opportunity, like maybe another event could happen that forced them to interact and be like, oh, maybe you're not as much of a shit as I thought you were. But probably more likely than not, because as you guys said, they're both very heavily invested in their own stuff, and yeah, this additional 10 years of them just not talking is probably not good for the relationship.
Yeah. So we are going to get further on ahead. We're going to get a little bit of a glimpse of Elvira and Karsted. It's a little ways forward, but we do get, I think we read it in session 2 or session 3. We got Elvira was hoping that Karsted would come home, and Karsted just like slithered away, and she was like, that coward. So basically he's rarely ever going in there. Also, remember in session 3 I hinted that there would be like another girl that he's pursuing. So Elvira has to deal with rumors that Karsted is pursuing another woman to make her his wife. So yeah, Elvira has a lot on her plate. And here's Hi Remy again, says, I hope Nicholas is still that gentle child as well. It broke my heart to see such a sweet child become swallowed by ego. Yeah, that's sad. He doesn't really come into the story though, but so I'll just let you imagine it. His mother got in trouble. She's in prison, and I haven't thought of what happened to Nicholas. But the only thing I know is that the mother is making demands from prison about her son, and Elvira's like, dude, you're lucky enough that you get to have whatever privileges you already have. Stop demanding more. So we don't know exactly what it is. I didn't even think about it, like specifics. I just know that Nicholas is still around somewhere, but he's not going to inherit or anything like that. Before that, there's Cornelius, who seems poised to, inherit, if not Lamprecht, but we'll talk about Lamprecht later. Yes, Yukihime says, the world is a worse place without Rosamine in it. It is, and that's why this fanfic exists. Alright, so you guys, it is 1:16. We're gonna end the read-along today. Next chapter, we're gonna find out what exactly happened at that salon, because Myne looks terrible, and she sent an urgent message, so it's something pretty bad must have happened. I will let you guys figure out what it was, guess and ponder about it. Unless you already read the fanfic, in which case no spoilers on the comments. Let people wonder about it. Unless, But let me encourage you to read the fanfic if you're interested. There's going to be a few chapters that we are not reading because of reasons. They might have some content that might be mature, so eventually you may want to read those. But for now, we haven't gotten into any of those chapters, and there's still a long
Chapter 14.
You guys. Yeah, the next read along is going to be on Wednesday at the same time as today, Wednesday at noon. I hope you guys join in. I had lots of fun, you guys. Until next time, Wednesday noon Pacific. Say bye-bye, gang.
Bye
Thank you for
bye.
reading.
Bye.
Night.
So today, just want to say thanks to all the people that joined in. Today, reading, we had... Who did we have reading? We had Eckhart was read by Patrick. Myne was read by Teal. Charlotte and Lizalita were also read by Teal. Let's see. Mary Ann and Ernesta was read by Vincent. Darius was also read by Vincent. And Cornelius by JC Fergie. As always, you guys, if you want to join us for the next read along, or if you want to just support this channel, be sure to join me on Ko-fi. There is a lot of fun stuff going on in the server. We are doing a Hannelore read along later on this afternoon. So be sure to join us there if you are a member, or if not, you can always become a Ko-fi member and support this channel. The links are going to be in the description, so do be sure to follow them. See you next time, everybody. And yes, Philip Ademic, thank you for reminding me. Buy some merch if you're so inclined. Until next time, you guys. Take care. Bye.